We're up to Ois Daled. Over here, the Rebbe was explaining the Medrash that says that while everybody was visiting the king, so instead of coming back to the king later on, troubling everybody, so the king said, "Let's make the day the Atzeres right away, so because the others will have a hard time coming back by Pesach." After Pesach, Shavuos is 7 weeks later, 50th day, because over there it's summer. Summer they can go and come, whether they live close or live far. But over here, let's all, and now the young, like the Lashon is, let's all celebrate over here this Yom Tov, and basically he refers to the time that they were together as celebrating it as a chad, in a way of one, in a way of unity. This is why the Rebbe ended up explained in Ois Gimel how all the mitzvahs of Sukkah. So on Yom Kippur, we know there is the idea of one on Yom Kippur, but also all the mitzvahs of Sukkahs that I've explained are really in the level of one. He goes through the level of Sukkah, Esrog, everything, the Daled Minim, each individual, and take them together. All the level of unity. So now in Ois Daled, the Rebbe explains how really unity takes place is through tshuva. That's the connection between Yom Kippur with the idea of unity. True unity, real unity comes through the level of tshuva. So in Ois Daled, the Rebbe is going to explain how by the second luchas, which the Yidden at that time were on the level of Baal Tshuva. The first luchas that the Yidden received on Shavuos, they were on the level of tzaddikim. But later on, after they made the egel and the luchas were broken, there was another luchas given to them. The second said those were given as Baal Tshuva. And the Rebbe says, so you see that the first luchas, they had to count 49 days before they got the luchas, and it was also after that you had to be 40 days on the mountain that Moshe Rabbeinu was there to receive the luchas. But by the second luchas, most of the time he spent was getting a piece Hashem, but then the luchas were given all at once. Why? Because it comes through tshuva. Tshuva reaches such a high level that there is no differences, there's no ischalkus, there's no separation. It's all at once. Let's look inside. Dalit. V'hinei b'chdei sheyuchal liyos ha'his achdus ha'amitis, in order that it should be a true union. We talked about before that we're taking all these species together to unite them. The Esrog, in order for it to be a true ubas kayoma and a lasting union, shall call hadalid sugim the Yisrael, of all the four categories of the Yidden, to make that union of that is represented by the lulav and the esrog and the different species, to make it true and lasting. Hu al yidei ha'teshuva, that is through tshuva. And that's the connection we're going to see, that the day that they got together is Yom Kippur, that all the daughters got together in the Medrash, and the day of the Yom Tov that the Eibishter makes for them is later on the Shmini Atzeres. The Hinei, Inyan HaTshuva Hu Lamailo Mehischalkus. The idea of Teshuvah is higher than division. Tshuva is higher than any division. Shalochein, That's why tshuva he b'shaita choda u'beriga choda. That's why when one does tshuva in one while, in one instant, in 1 second, you change yourself around. It doesn't take time because it's higher than time. It's higher than separation. It's the essence of the neshama. In one moment, in one turn, in one moment, you do tshuva. This is the difference between the first luchas, which is inyan ha-Torah mitzadatzma. That is Torah on its own, without the level of teshuvah. When the Eibusher gave them the luchas, and the second luchas hashniya is the second luchas, inyan Torah al de tshuva. That's the idea of Torah. That is through tshuva, because the way we got the luchas shniyas, the Yidden had to do teshuva. So luchas sorishoinus is Torah on itself without teshuva, and the luchas shniyas is the level of Torah that comes along with the level of tshuva. So what is the difference in the time that it took to receive the first luchas and the time that it took to receive the second luchas? Shebichdei lekabel luchas harishonos, in order to get the first luchas, Haya Moshe bahar arboim yoim. Moshe was on the mountain for 40 days. Took time, 40 days to get. 40 days means that you got to go through. It's a process. It takes 40 days. And that was, in addition, Noisef, in addition, al ha'achoneh, on the preparation, the Shiva Shavuos Tisparlach, that you should count for 7 weeks. Shahoyo Lifnei said that was before the 40 days. So they counted in 40 days. It shows that it's a process. It's a lengthy process. Mash'enkin beluchas hashniyas, as opposed to the second luchas, which were through tshuva. Harei harboyim yom shahoyo Moshe bahar. The 40 days that Moshe was on the mountain, the second time, the time to when he received the second luchas, who beikir bichdei lifel sheyisratza hakodesh baruch hu liyisrael. It's mainly to impact that Hashem should appease to the Yidden b'simcha b'leiv shalom, with joy and a complete heart, that the Eibusher should really ask him to give them the Torah, because it seems like the fact the Eibusher sends him to go get the Torah, so meaning that the Eibusher is already happy because he's telling him to come take second luchas. But he spent the 40 days on the mountain mainly to Hashem should be agreeing to give the Yidden, to accept the Yidden, to appease them and give them the luchas, b'simcha u'b'leiv shalom, as Rashi says, with joy and with gladness of heart. But once that was accomplished, nitnu haluchas b'shat choda, then the luchas were given in one instant, immediately. So you see that tshuva doesn't take any time; it goes right away. So what does this tell us? This tells us that tshuva comes from a very high place in the nefesh, comes a very high place in the soul. Tshuva comes from the essence of the soul, which is not divided. It's not separated. You don't have to take time for it to go through. It just one knack, one turn, everything changes around. This idea, this concept, that tshuva is in one turn, in one instant. Madgish, it emphasizes she'inyan hatshuva hu l'mayla mikol medita v'hagbola, that the idea of teshuva is higher than all measures and all limitations, and that's why it happens right away. Mipnei she'hatshuva amitis, because true tshuva, magas, reaches or dernemt, it captures b'pnimis v'atzmus hanefesh, in the inner and the essence of the soul. Because teshuva touches and captures this soul in its essence, in its inner and essence, as of the soul. Shebechina zu, that level in the soul, that essence, hilamayla mehischalkus, that is higher than separation. That's before the koiches, before the other powers, before the other things of the nefesh. It's higher than all the division. That is called bechinas achas, the nefesh. That is the one of the soul. That's the where the soul is alone. There is no other thing. It is b'shaita choda. Choda is one briga choda in one turn and one instant. Meaning that's the place of the soul where tshuva comes from. So now we understand that when there is teshuva, which touches the soul, we can unite all yin, because if we're talking about teshuva, about the essence of the soul, then all yin are together. V'zehu mashal yidei ha'tshuva nase ha'his ardus shel kol ha'sugim de Yisrael. Through tshuva becomes the union of all categories of yin, because tshuva touches the essence of the soul. The essence of the soul, there's no separation. It unites all categories of yin. From the heads of the tribes till the wood chopper and the water carriers, meaning the 10 different levels that we have, categories within the Jewish people. Ube'oifen, as the pasuk says, it's not only that we bring them together, but atem nitzovim hayem kulchem, you're all nitzov, standing fast together. Be'oifen, the atem nitzovim kulchem, you are all standing in a way of nitzovim. Nitzovim means standing strong and fast. Is nitzovim meloshin nitzov melech, from the language a king is stationed, a king standing, meaning he is anchored, he's strongly standing. So we're saying we're all together, and nitzovim, we're all staying very strongly, because Yisrael nasim melochim ubalebatim al kol hametzias de'olam. The Yidden become the kings, and the balabatim, meaning the bosses, they are the bosses al kol hametzias de'olam, on all of the entity, the entire existence of the world. They're in charge. The Yidden are in charge. They're nitzov. They're the melech. Maschil mizeh, and that begins with the fact shehem nichtovim v'nechtomim b'ksiva chsima toiva. They are written and they are signed with a ksiva v'chsima toiva, written and sealed for the good l'shona toiva mesukah, for a good and sweet year b'toiva nira v'anigla, in good that is visible and revealed lamata ma'asora tzvachim, below 10 tvachim, which means in the world, not above 10 tvachim, but in 10 tvachim, below 10 tvachim, gam b'inyonim hagashmim, also in the physical matter. Why is that? Why is it the level of tshuva that all Yidden become united, and to the extent that they become kings and in charge and in control? Why is that? Mikivon shemitzad b'chinas zu. When we talk about why is it, how does it come down even into Gashmis? Everybody knows into Gashmis. Mikivon shemitzad b'chinas zu. This level, the level of the essence of the neshama, where the level of tshuva is, ein shaykh l'chalik bein ruchlis l'gashmis. It doesn't make a difference. You cannot differentiate between spirituality and physicality. ubein mailu lamata, ubein on top or below. Everything, the entire all is impacted by this level of the etzem neshama. And I guess the fact that we become kings, that the Eibishter makes us kings, that we are in charge over everything, over physical and spiritual. Das nimmt durch es kol seder ha'hishtalshelus. This goes through and encompasses the entire order of Ishtalshelus. Also, what is higher than Ishtalshelus. All this happens through the level of Teshuvah, because Teshuvah is the Etzem HaNeshama, and that brings about that union between people. It brings about the union in the world, and it brings down all Yidden, all different Yidden, and it also brings down in all aspects of the world, which is the three aspects, Olam, Shona, and Nefesh. It brings down that level of unity that penetrates, that goes through all the different levels, all of Ishtalshelus. So what is this? Zeu inyan Yom Echad bo kulam lishoel shloim hamelech habiyim kulam. So one day, the Medrash says, they all came to greet the king. What is that day, that one day? So we said that was Yom Kippur. That's the Achaz Bashana, as he said. He talked about the mitzvah of Yom Kippur, which represents the Kohen, the Kohen Gadol, the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and the Yom Kippur. So that's the Yom Echad. And he says, Nabit kulam chad yom tov v'nichdimo. Let us make one Yom Tov. So what is this one Yom Tov? Yom Echad shabo bo kulam lishel shloim hamelech aviyam. That one day in which they all came to greet their king, their father, hu Yom HaKippurim. That's Yom Kippur. Because that is Achaz Dishono. That's once a year. That's why it's Yom Echad Ba'u Kulam, and that Yom Echad, which is Yom Kippur, it's once a year. And also, as we said before, the Rebbe says the parentheses now, V'gam Achaz the Olam U'de Nefesh. It's also one in the world, because it's in the place in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and it's also the Nefesh because it's the Kohen Gadol. Umizeh nimshach achar kach. Nabit kulon chad yom tov. This brings down, he says, let's make one Yom Tov. Shekoi al simchas Torah. That goes on simchas Torah. Shu gam ken Yom Echad. It's also Yom Echad. Chad Yom Tov. B'chinas achas. That one Yom Tov, which is the level of achas, because simchas Torah, really, that's connected to the luchas shniyas. That's why we celebrate after Yom Kippur. We celebrate the Simchas Torah. That's the second luchas that came down on Yom Kippur, Motzi Yom Kippur, when Hashem said Salachti. So the celebration of Simchas Torah, the finishing of the Torah, that whole celebration is, and that's a celebration of Torah that comes through Tshuva, as the Rebbe said, not just like Shavuos is the celebration of Torah itself, but the addition, what's the celebration of Simchas Torah? The Rebbe said, asked her, why don't we make Simchas Torah on Shavuos? And the answer is, this is the Simchas Torah, a Torah that comes through Tshuva. The Torah that comes through Tshuva has the power to unite, as we're coming from Sukkot, it has the power to unite all the different levels. That's the specialty of Simchas Torah on after Sukkot. So now the Rebbe says, okay, we reach into this high level of the Etzem HaNefesh, which is higher than Ischalkus. But then we have to make sure we don't remain over there. We tap into the level of higher than Ischalkus in the Etzem HaNeshama. But we got to bring it down in our day-to-day life into the ischalkus, from the level of higher than ischalkus. So that's why we have the various mitzvahs on the sukkah, because even though it's his achdus, but it has to come down into the four species, to the dancing. V'hinei ha'his oiderus the bechinas achas shebenefesh shelamayla me'ischalkus. That awakening, arousal of that level of one of the soul, which is higher than ischalkus. It cannot just be aroused, but tzorich lahamshicha. We have to draw this down. Bahadarga is the nefesh, in the levels of the nefesh, in the steps of the nefesh, shebebchinas ischalkus, which is divided up. We have to take that level of higher than ischalkus and bring it down in ischalkus. This is ubedugmas. This is similar. Mashehis oiderezu tzricha liyos keshura basiya gashmis. Similar, that this arousal that we talked about, that takes place on Sukkot, which is also the idea of the unity, it needs to be tied in actual physical doing. We don't just leave it in the spiritual arousal, but it has to come down in practical physical actions. Ukemoyes, for example, b'ha'asiya the yeshiva b'sukkah. It's doing. You got to sit in the sukkah. Netilas daled minim. You got to take the four species. Rikud beraglayim. This is, you have to dance with your feet. So that means that, yes, you tap in after Yom Kippur, you tap into the highest level of achas, of the soul, and that you experience in achas bashona, but we have to take it and bring it down in practical into action. After the pasuk says, you are standing, everybody shakol Yisrael hein b'koifen the kulcha. So the pasuk says, yes, you're all standing together, which means united. But then the pasuk goes on to enumerate the different categories, because we need to take from the step of kulchem to bring it down into each of the category. So first they're ba'oifen the kulchem, that is mitzad b'chinas achas shavem. That is because of the level of achas, so it's all together. And then the pasuk is moine achar kach kol ha'eser sugim beprotius. The pasuk details afterwards all the 10 category very specifically. Merasheichem shivteichem ad choyte veitzecho v'shoyvemecho. From the little leaders, the top, till the one who chops the wood and draws the water. Hainu. So this is the idea that she'inyan, the kulchem, chinas achas, that this idea altogether, atem nitzovim kulchem, which is the love of achas, the Yisrael, tzorich liyis nikar bahem, you have to be able to tell, it should be recognized by them, gam k'moy shehem b'chinas ischalkus. Even as later on, as they're separate, you got to see and you got to recognize that they have the level of achas, they have the level of kulcha. So in the pasuk says first altogether, which it's talking about the level of unity, the level of yidden, which is higher than dividing. Then the pasuk says all the different categories, because that level of kulchem should be sensed and felt in all the different categories. That's in the level of the soul, meaning of people, that we should be able to see that idea of unity even when everybody's on their own level. So, just like it's in the nefesh by people, that you should see that it impacts everyone, the same thing is also in the year. while Yom Kippur is once a year, but the influence and the impact of that high day, the special day, the Yom Echad of Yom Kippur, Shebechinas, should influence all year. Shebechinas Yom Echad of Yom Kippurim. That one day of Yom Kippur, and then later on the Simchas Torah. And Simchas Torah, because we said that both the Simcha of Torah through Tshuva is also represents the idea of that unity, the Etzem HaNefesh. So we have to be able to tell that level that impacts and that leads all the days of the year. Maschil mi Isru Chag, starting from Isru Chag, that's when the Maimer was said, was right on Simchas Torah at nighttime, which begins Isru Chag. So immediately you should start seeing in Isru Chag, Shebechol Protei Asi Yosef, in all that the person will do, which includes not only the mitzvahs, that's Bechol Masecho Bechol Drochecho. As we say, Kol Masecho Yu L'Shem Shamayim, everything has to be for the sake of heaven. And also Bechol Drochecho, the Eyu, we always have to know the Eibishter in all our ways. So whatever you do, all the details and all specific doings, Niker, it should be recognized as is ot ersh gekumen, that you have just coming now, from that one day, that echod, the idea of echod, that unity of Yom Kippur and Simchas Torah. We should be able to see in everything we do that special Yom Echod, Yom Kippur and Simchas Torah. That's to start with is Isru Chag, but then it goes on through the entire year. This idea is in the duration of the entire year. The Av shekvar ovru kamo v'kamo yomim shvuz v'chadoshim. Even though that there's many days, weeks, and months that have passed, Yom Kippurim v'Simchas Torah, from Yom Kippur and Simchas Torah. Afal pikein, yet ha'his oidrus the Yom Echad. That awakening, that arousal that we took from that one day, that Yom Echad, which is both Yom Kippur and Simchas Torah, Ein Echleshes Klal, has not weakened at all. Ubetokfo emedes, and it stands with full force. That's to be mamshich the Yom Echad, like we're mamshich in the yeshiva Besukkah, the idea of the Yisraelis benefesh, and we get all Yidden together later on in the pasuk, like this we're mamshich what we experience in Yom Kippur and Simchas Torah from all year. It doesn't get weaker and it stays with full force. Why? How is that possible? Because it comes from a place which is higher than the vision, and changes. It comes b'chinas ani havaya lo shanisi, the level which Hashem says, I Hashem have not changed. There's no changes over there. So since the Yom Echad is the revelation of ani havaya lo shanisi, so therefore you're mamshechit in all Yemei Hashana, and so with lo shanisi, b'al yidei shabchina the Yom Echad shalomaylo meischalkus nimsheches b'chol Yemei Hashana, through the fact that the Yom Echad, which is essentially higher than the division, gets extended in all days of the year, shebebchinas yischalkus v'shinuyim, which is changeable, it divides and it changes. So we take the Yom Echad that is higher and we bring it down and all it changes. Al yidei ze nase ilui gam bebechina Yom Echad. That makes an elevation also in the level of Yom Echad. When we bring down the Yom Echad into his chalkus, that makes the Yom Echad itself in a higher level. That when the higher level can come down in his chalkus and in shinuyim, that elevates the level of echad, which is higher than the shinuyim. Al derech mashen nizbar le'il. This is similar that we explained before. Be'inyan pri eitz hodar. The Rebbe explained that more than by the other species, the level of achdus that we find about the pri eitz hodar in the esrog. So what happens? Asher loy rak shehu soivel kol shinuyei ha'avirim. Not only that the esrog can tolerate all the changes of the different seasons. Whatever comes, it always stays on the tree, but it actually grows. Elishu Godelman, but it grows from them. So that means that that level of the esrog grows from the changes. So the fact that the level of Yom Echad can come down in all the different levels of his chalkus, that means that it will grow from them and also become in a higher level. So basically, what the Rebbe is saying is that this level of unity that we're talking about, so when we talk about the unity in the soul, it's while everybody is together, but then it gets expressed and you can tell that even when they're all separate, they're still part of the kulchem of all together. The similar thing is also in the time that while there is Yom Echad on Yom Kippur and on Simchas Torah, while that's the time in which there is expression of that level, higher level of Yom Echad, but yet this is expressed itself throughout the year, Yisro Chag, and throughout the year, and it never gets weakened because we're talking about above his chalkus, so therefore it comes into all changes. But the Rebbe adds at the end, not only does it come down everywhere, is it able to come down everywhere, but actually the level of echad actually grows. Oizvah, b'yiratzen. So the Rebbe ends with a brach over here. Shakol hanal yiskayim b'chol echad v'achas b'seichechi klal Yisrael. That all of the above of the blessings, and that is nimshach, that Yidden become balabatim of the world, and all that unity, that it should be fulfilled by each man and woman amongst all Jewish people, Klal Yisrael. Shetiya shana toivo muvareches. It should be a good and blessed year. Betoiv hanira v'hanigla, in good that is visible and revealed. Lamata masarat tvachim, below 10 tvachim. A lot of times you have a bracha, but you want the bracha to be visible. So that's the bracha the Rebbe gives. And also remember, this was when the Rebbe is just starting to recover from the incident. And the Rebbe says it should be lamata mavzorat tvachim. And the Rebbe says in all areas, bebonei, chaye, umezoyne, in children, life, health, and the sustenance and the food. Ubekulam revicha, and in all of them should be in a wide, in a plentiful way. Hein beboni chayi umezoyne kipshutom. Whether we're talking about children, life, and food, literally, physically, vehein beboni chaniya umezoyne beruchnius, and also in the level of children, life, and the food in a spiritual level, because the physical level comes from this spiritual, shemahem ishtalshalim hoinyonim kipshutom. From the spiritual, the ideas literally that they come down the bona chayim mezoyna. If we have it on a spiritual level, everything in a wide way, they also evolve and they come down also begashmis. Asher mitoich simcha vetu levov, that being happy and gladness of heart, tiyeh miyad la'achrei simchas Torah. So immediately after Simchas Torah, there should be ha'avodah, the v'Yaakov holach l'darkei, the service that Yaakov goes on his road. Gam behenegeya linyone harishus, also to optional matters. The Rebbe is saying now that essentially after Yom Kippur, the Achas, we're also going on the road. But here, over there, we're going on the road. Over there, we're going on the road for mitzvahs. Because between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, it's all mitzvahs. But today, we start going after Simchas Torah when we go L'darka, it means an optional stuff. It's not mitzvahs anymore. She'inyan, that's what he says, Gam benigel inyon ereshus, also to option matter. She'inyan v'Yaakov holach l'darkoi sha'achre Yom Kippurim. The idea Yaakov goes on his road that follows Yom Kippur, who bedarkoi means his way binyan mitzvahs. We're talking about the idea of mitzvahs. Because you're not between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, there's no time, you don't go to optional matters. Because the Rebbe quotes, Shari bedalet hayomim shebein Yom Kippurim l'Sukkos. Because in the 4 days that are between Yom Kippur and Sukkos, Kol Yisrael asukim b'mitzvahs, everybody's oisik b'mitzvahs. That's why the Medrash explains, L'kachtam lachem b'yom harishon, is the first day is Sukkos, but between Pesach, between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, we're going the darkoi, we're going into mitzvahs darkoi. But when we talk about Yaakov darkoi that follows Simchas Torah, over there we're saying also in optional matters, it's darkoi. So we want that soon, as we go out into Holach L'Darkei, that everything should be in a way, Shebechol Yom V'Yom. So in every day and day, whether it's weekdays, Valachas Kama V'Kama B'Shabbos V'Yom Tov, and certainly on Shabbos and Yom Tov, Koilel Gam Rosh Hashanah V'Yom Kippurim, which includes Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, Zainen Durchinum Kol Inyonov. So all of the person's aspect have been taken through, are absorbed with Hein Inyonim HaKol Hein Inyonim HaProtim, whether it's your general matters or your own personal matters. It's all penetrated, it's all absorbed with the Nekude HaIkris VaHaPnimius, the Pnimis VaAsva Neshama, in the main and inner point of the essence of the soul. Everything that you do, that's that echod, that's that yochid that you experience, that coming from Yom Kippur. So all the times, the person should be absorbed, everything, general, personal matters, benekuda, ikris, v'hapnimis, in the main and the inner point, the pnimis, v'atzmas haneshama, of the inner and the essence of the soul, shikshura b'pnimis v'atzmas ein sof baruch hu, which is tied in the inner and the essence of ein sof baruch hu. So this is the Rebbe's bracha, that we should all have that good year in a literally and physically and spiritually, and that our entire year should be absorbed, penetrated with that idea of the essence of the neshama, which is tied to the essence of the Ein Sof. Zayin. Umekivon shazeh bo misimchas haTorah. Since this comes from the joy of the Torah, we know that shesimcha peiretzes kol hagedorim, that joy breaks through all limitations, v'hagbolis, and also all fences and all limitations, the golus hapnimi, in the inner exile, our own inner inhibitions, our exile, our feeling in our standing, but the joy can break through all those barriers, all those limitations. So that's the personal limitation, with our own personal exile, which we are in, but also Simcha breaks through that. But v'chein hagdorim v'hagbolos, the golus kipshutai, and likewise the boundaries, the fences and the limitations, the gavolos of Golus Kipshute. Literally, Golus puts limitations around us. So this Simcha breaks through. So there will be no more limitations, no more fences. And then we merit that very soon there will be our eyes will see when you return to Tzion, to Yerushalayim, with mercy, in the true and complete redemption, through our righteous Mashiach. Yavoi, may he come, and he should lead us up with an uplift to the way to our land, very quickly in our days. And he will build the Beis Hamikdash in its place. He will gather all those who are pushed away, those Yidden that are far away, to the extent that not only Yidden, but all the nations, Asher Oz at that time, Epech El Amim Sofa Berura. The Eibishter says, I will turn around that all nations will speak a very clear language, which means that they will all speak the language of Torah, of Yiddishkeit, of Hashem. And to serve Hashem, as the Navi says, with one shoulder, everybody together. And the kingdom will be to Hashem. Okay, we'll leave it over here. And then
thank you very much. See you later. Bye.